Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today, Transitioning to Google Analytics 4. I've got Clint Rudolph here from the Excite Group, and I'm Hillary Wicks with America Outdoors. I'm the Marketing and Events Manager, and so I'm just going to be here to help support Clint. He's doing all the talking and teaching today.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it.
I sure am not. But I'm here to help. I'm here to help with the questions most of all. So this session is mostly going to focus on the transitioning piece, like the really tactical, how to get this done. And then it's actually a precursor to a session we're going to have at the America Outdoors Conference that's going to get into how to use GA4 and what reports you might need. So if you haven't already signed up for the America Outdoors Conference, I encourage you to check it out. I'm going to drop a link in the chat for that, so you can go and see the summary. We've got a lot of marketing sessions. Clint is going to be doing too at the conference. And so this will just be kind of step one. We're getting into step two at AO. Before we begin, just a few announcements here. We've got one more webinar coming up in a few weeks. October 25th, we're going to be doing an America Outdoors policy legislative update. So I will also drop a link for that one in the chat if that interests you. Yeah, it's really focused on the policy agenda that we've been working on to give you an update. If you are wondering why our faces are so big and you want to make them smaller, there should be 3 little lines that you can move to make it all about the presentation screen. And lastly, most importantly, Clint is going to take questions as we go. So we are going to interrupt because we want you to be able to follow along and be trying some of this on your own computer. So if you're confused or getting stuck on something, use the questions feature. And I'm just going to pop up and interrupt Clint as I see those questions come through so that we can address them right away. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. Thanks, Clint.
Cool. All right, we've got a couple polls to start that I'd like to have Hillary kick off first. And when we get started, I'll turn off my camera so you don't have to worry about that and I can focus on the screen. But if you'd answer a couple of these quick polls for us, that would be awesome. The reason this is important, like Hillary said, today's literally about how to install it, how to get it on your site and make sure that it's working correctly. As we get to AO, that will be important for you to be able to understand that it's already there, that it's collecting data, so that as we get into the workshop at AO, it's more tactical and we can actually talk about how to get use out of it. It's a beast and it is a very different way of collecting data than we are used to. So as we go through today, I'll show you some examples before we get started, and then we're going to dig into exactly how to get this installed and how to make sure that it's working correctly. So there's 2 poll questions. The first one that's up right now: have you set up Google Analytics 4 on your site already? Please select yes or no. And then when we're done with that, we'll have one more poll question.
Hey, while we're getting answers here, someone asked, how do we know if it's installed?
So if you have an analytics account, right, you will see both G4 and Universal Analytics in your analytics account. That's probably the easiest way. There's a couple ways that you can do it, but one of the easiest, if you don't know or if you don't have access to that, if you use Google Chrome, there is a plugin that you can download called Google Tag Assistant. And it's in the Chrome downloads, and when you go to your website with that plugin turned on, it will show you all the tags that are on your site. So it will say Universal Analytics, it will say Google Analytics 4, it will say any of the tracking, Facebook, any of the tags that you have on your site. So there's 2 quick, easy ways you can figure out if it's there. Either logging into your Google Analytics account and you will see both the Universal and G4, and I'll show that here in a second. And then also using the Google Tag Assistant will let you know as well.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. And it looked like it was 75% no, 25% yes.
Okay.
Let's launch the next poll.
This one might be a little harder if you didn't do it or your developer or your marketing company did it. You may not know the answer to that, and it's okay if you don't. The reason this one's important is for this 25% of you that do have it on the site, do you know if it is deployed through Google Tag Manager or if it was put directly or hard-coded onto the site? And that's important for a couple reasons. Just like Universal Analytics, you can deploy Google Analytics 4 either way. But for the purposes of AO and for this webinar today, we're going to be going the Google Tag Manager route. And the reason for that is that for those of you who may not know, Universal Analytics is cookie-based, which means it has a cookie that it installs on the user's browser and knows that they're on your website. Google Analytics 4, with all the privacy, isn't cookie-based, it is event-based. And the reason that Tag Manager is the recommended deployment method for Google Analytics 4 is that all the events, everything that we will be creating when we get to AO on conversion tracking and what reports to look at, that's all going to be most successfully deployed and easily done through Tag Manager, where you don't have to understand how to write code. So that's why this question is there for the 25% of you that answered that you already have it. It'll be important that it is deployed through Google Tag Manager. So if in fact you have it hard-coded on the site, you'll want to get with your web development team or your marketing team, or you can certainly reach out to us and have it placed via Google Tag Manager instead. Maybe there's a few of you who don't know what Google Tag Manager is. Google Tag Manager, think of it as a big bucket that is installed on your website where I can place lots of different codes, lots of tracking codes, verification codes, all of those kind of things without ever having to have access to your website. Two reasons that's important. The first is obviously sometimes maybe we don't want to give everybody access to our website who may need it to put chat functionality on or analytics or marketing things. That's one. And the second is that almost all tracking codes are JavaScript based. And so if we hard code them on our site, we slow down our site by having all of these codes running in the background of our site. Why Google Tag Manager is important is it's one line of JavaScript for the entire container. And then within Google Tag Manager, we set the rules of what fires when and how, so that you don't have a bunch of JavaScript library bloat on your website slowing it down.
All right, so it looks like we've got 60% saying they have it using GTM, and then 40% hard-coded. Oh, that's changed to 33. I'm going to go ahead and close it, but
cool.
This is helpful.
Awesome, that's great. So like I said, for those of you who mentioned that it's hard-coded, you'll want to have it deployed through Tag Manager. If you don't have Tag Manager, your development team or marketing team will know, or like I said, you can certainly reach out to us. My contact information will be at the end here, and you can reach out to us for help with that too if you're not familiar with that. It's just the best practice for not only Google Analytics 4, but all of your sort of tracking tags and JavaScript loaded scripts for your site. So that could be a chat functionality, it could be call tracking, it could be a million things. It's just a nice, clean, and easy way to deploy any of those codes on your site, as opposed to having a developer have to load them all right onto the site. Alrighty, well, let's get started here. Like Hillary said, I'm gonna close my camera as well so we can focus on the slideshow. But if you have questions, put them in the question functionality on the control panel, and Hillary will pop her camera on and interrupt me, and I will know to shut up and see who needs help. Before we get into this, don't freak out if you don't have a way to necessarily try to do this as we go in real time. We will have a recording of this. I will have my slides sent out as well so that you could find time to do this on your own or with the correct teams inside of your business. I know, Woody, you're on here, so you're probably just gung-ho ready to do it all yourself right now. But the rest of you may need some time. So we will certainly have a recording of this and the slides available so that between now and AO, we can get this tackled. All right. So transitioning to Google Analytics 4. Here is how we prepare for the G4 session at AO. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover creating a Google Analytics 4 property and the data stream. that is required for it to work. We're going to learn how to install it on your site with Google Tag Manager. Then we're going to spend a little time in the Debug View, which is a new feature in Google Analytics 4 that allows us to understand, did we get the data installed correctly and is it working? After that, we'll show how to publish those changes to your Google Tag Manager so they go live. Then we're going to look at some real-time reports, which similar to Universal Analytics, they're similar in that we can see traffic actually happening on the site. So that's just the final confirmation after we've published the Tag Manager container. We know it's working. It's our final confirmation to understand, yep, I can see the data flowing in here. That's awesome. And then finally, if you have Universal Analytics and you've already got some goals there, one caveat, this will not work for e-commerce. So for your booking systems and revenue, we're not going to go over that today. That is a lot more in depth and it won't import easily. That's a tactical thing that has to happen between your reservation system and your website and Google Analytics 4. We will certainly be spending a lot of time on that at AO. But for the purposes of today, that's biting off more than we can chew. But if you have contact forms, if you have downloads of guides, what to bring, those kind of things that people are downloading, and you've already set those goals up in Universal Analytics, we'll talk about how to get those into G4 easily so that you don't have to recreate the wheel for those. All righty. So as an introduction, the caveat, the caveat to all of this is that Google Analytics 4 is under heavy development, right? It means that every month, every time you log in, you'll get some new features, and sometimes some will go away or change or be moved to a different part of the interface. Right now, unfortunately, that is just how G4 is working. It is brand new. It just came out of beta, so it's one of those things where Google pushed it out quickly, and now they're going to be deprecating Universal quickly. So it's not completely baked. There's a lot about it that we don't know, but it's important that we get it on and collecting data, because as of July 2023, when most of you will be in the peak of your season, there will be no more Universal Analytics. So we need to understand as quickly as possible the differences between them. And I'm going to show you real quick here. I'm going to switch screens and just give you a real life example of what's going on inside of the differences between these. This is Universal Analytics for my website right now. I'm going to make this screen slightly bigger so you guys can all see it. All right, so this is the acquisition source medium view that we're all probably accustomed to looking at our reporting. What channels are we getting our traffic from? What are they doing on the site? How many of them are new users? Are they filling out our forms? All of those kind of things. And one thing I want you to pay special attention to is the number of users, new users, and sessions, okay? This is how we're all used to seeing a cookie-based system. What Google Analytics 4 looks like, and I've had it on my site for a while, testing and poking around and seeing the differences. And right away, if I click on my Google Analytics 4 account, this is what it looks like. And you'll see that the interface is drastically different. The reporting doesn't look the same, the navigation doesn't look the same. But one thing to note, 8,000 users, 4,300 engaged sessions, okay? Go back to Universal. So remember 8138 and 43. 10,000 and 11,000. Well, why are they different? Why is that off so much? That's part of the reason we want to have this session today and get ahead of the game, because fundamentally they are very different systems and they collect data very differently. So on the surface, we're going to look at this and go, oh shit, what's happening? Something's broke. I have way less data in my G4 account than I do in my UA account. One other thing to note is sessions and pages per session, session duration, bounce rate. Those are all gone. There's a reason for that. Universal Analytics, which is cookie-based, is based around sessions, all around a session of a user. So when a user, what a session is defined as is what someone does on your website in a 30-minute time period, okay? The way that G4 works is it's event-based and all as they go through your website. So if you're familiar with Universal Analytics, there are things called page views, right? We had page views, we had goals, sorry, we had events, and we also had e-commerce transactions. And all of that was how it managed our data. G4 being event-based is very different. There's no page views, there's no sessions, there's no conversion, there's no transaction. Everything is an event. So it makes it very different, and it will be super important that we get a head start now to be understanding the differences and seeing what's happening in our website traffic, so that we don't get there and freak out and go, oh, well, I want to go look at what I did last summer in Universal and look very different in G4 next summer. So we just want to understand and have some time to poke around and why are things different. So let me go back to my other screen now, and we will get into the meat of it. Anyone have any questions so far, Hillary?
No questions yet, but yes, please write them in as get them.
Cool. All right. So how do we create a property in G4? So in your analytics account, this is what it looks like, right? And I will actually, I can show you in real time as well. Let me get back to my analytics screen so that we can see it and you can see how I navigate to it. All right, so we're in our analytics account, and if we click on admin in the lower left-hand corner, we're going to be taken to the admin screen. And the way that Universal Analytics works is there's an account, overall account, a property, which is your actual website, and a view. Views are not available yet in G4. It is only properties. So it'll look slightly different when you get in there, but what you're looking at in your Universal account right here under the property area, first thing you'll see is G4 Setup Assistant. And so you'll want to go admin, then see G4 Setup Assistant here and click on that, and you will bring up a screen that mine is already set up, so you will not see this screen. I'll go back to the slideshow so you can see that one. When you actually click in on G4 Setup Assistant, you will see this, and it will be a whole property setup area. So you'll want to enter the name of your property. Could be the name of your website or your company. Some of you they're the same. Some of you, you have one business name and your URL may be different and not the exact same. Doesn't really matter what you put here. It's just for you to remember. So you'll put your property name in. You'll set your time zone and you'll set your currency. Once you do that, the next step to complete is to configure your data stream. So creating the property isn't enough. The differences between Universal Analytics and G4 are vast, but the important part about this data stream, not applicable to all of us, but in the old days, you had to have a Universal Analytics account for your website, and you had to have a completely different analytics account if you had an app. The way that G4 works is it allows you to connect multiple data streams to the same property. So if in fact you had an iOS app, an Android app, and your website, you could configure all of them together. For the purposes of today, we're ignoring the app thing. We're just setting up a web data stream. So when you see the data streams pop up after you've created your property, right here, it will bring up this screen, and we're going to want to click web, right? So we select web. And after that, we are going to be taken to, I got to go back to slideshow mode so it's bigger for you guys, sorry. We're going to be taken to configuring our data stream. So here's the screen you're going to see. It's going to say set up your web stream and put in your URL. One thing you'll notice is HTTPS is automatically selected here. So you'll just type in your URL, right? And your stream name. So River Adventures website, whatever you want to call it to remember it. The next section is this enhanced measurement. For those of you who are used to Universal Analytics and setting up different kinds of event tracking, outbound links, people scrolling, what's the scroll depth of my website, video engagement views, page views, those were all things you had to set up manually in Universal Analytics that come out of the box in G4. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to toggle this little button, enhanced measurement, on. And that will automatically create events for things like page views, scrolls, outbound clicks. We'll look at all of them here. These are by default the ones that are created. So page view, we already get that. That's how each page of your website is tagged, and we can understand how many people visited a given page, sort of the same reports you're used to seeing in Universal. Scroll event, it will track scrolling of your page. So it's an event where we can see how far down the page people are scrolling. Outbound link click, so any link you have on your website that goes out to somewhere else, local other businesses that you're partnering with or national park, those kind of things, it will keep track of all the outbound links, and you can pull that up in a report. If you have search on your site where someone could type in and look for something specifically, that was something that had to be set up separately in Universal Analytics. It is out of the box with G4 if you turn on the enhanced measurement. Then you have video engagement. So video start, video progress, video complete. Those are out of the box, already tracked. So any video on your site, someone clicks play, it will say, oh, they started it, here's how much they watched, and yes, here they completed it. And the last one that comes out of the box is a file download. So if you have PDFs, calendars, any of those kinds of things on your website, G4 will track those out of the box as events. If we want to turn any of those events into conversions, that's something that we will deal with at AO, and I will walk everybody through how to do that. But at least now, if you turn on enhanced measurement, it will be tracking all of these things for you right out of the box. So that's the long-winded answer to say, yes, turn this little blue button on that says enhanced measurement. All right. If you ever wanted to disable those, which I don't recommend, you could right here on that. Once you, at the bottom, when you've toggled it on, you'll see a setting wheel. And if you click that, it will allow you to check mark, oh, I don't want to track outbound links. Oh, I don't want to track video starts, completes, and progress. Like I said, doesn't hurt you to track them as events. I would leave them all on, but in the event that for some reason you wanted to turn them off, that's how you would turn them off. You click that little wheel and it would allow you to disable them. All right, so we've created our property. It is ready for us to connect that data stream. We created the data stream and configured it, but we haven't connected it. So how do we do that? So this is going to be instructions for Google Tag Manager. If you have Google Tag Manager, it's super easy. You're going to open up your Google Tag Manager account, and it is the recommended way to deploy Google Analytics 4. And the reason is because going back to what I was talking about, how G4 is event-based, well, it's very easy to create a bunch of different kinds of events out of the box in Google Tag Manager, where if you have it hard-coded on your site, someone literally has to write that code. So another reason why I say make sure it's deployed via Tag Manager. When you are in your analytics account, right, you will see, and I'm going to switch screens again so we can look at mine in real time, and I'll show you how to get there. So once you've set it up, right, you can click this, go to your G4 property. And what you will see on here is we want to see our measurement ID. So yours will not look like mine because I've already set it up, but right here, come on. Is our measurement ID. Come on, where are you hiding? See how I said every time you log in, it's in a different place? Let's see. Data is flowing. Where are you hiding now? Oh, this is frustrating. I can't find it in mine. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be right here in data streams, maybe. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yours will not look like mine because you're setting it up. If it's already been set up before and you want to know, it'll be down here in data streams on the left-hand side. Receiving traffic in the past 24 hours. I created 2 when I was testing it in the beginning. This one is turned off now. But what you're looking for is your measurement ID. It will start with a G. right? And so what you can do is click this little copy button right here, and it will copy your measurement ID. That's what we're looking for to set this up in Google Tag Manager. So back to the slideshow, when you get the next screen as you're going through this, you're going to see your measurement ID right here. You want to click on the copy button, and now you're going to open in a new tab, Google Tag Manager, if you have a Tag Manager account. If you don't, we'll have to set that up, or you'll have to have a developer set it up for you. But when you create the data stream, you'll see, oh, see, I accounted for it. If I ever get lost, admin data streams, like we talked about, admin data streams on the left-hand side, that's how we can get back to it if you clicked past this screen already. But we'll copy that little measurement ID that begins with a G, and now we're going to open up Google Tag Manager. Inside of Google Tag Manager, you're going to create a new tag, and I will show that in real time as well, because it's probably easier than looking at a slideshow. So I'm in my Google Tag Manager account, and I'm going to click on tags, and I'm going to create new. Inside here, I'm going to name this G4 tag, and I'll click on the tag configuration box, and you'll see a bunch of things come up on the left-hand side. We want to select a G4 configuration. It'll pop up this screen, and there's our measurement ID. So again, I'll go back to mine. I'm going to copy this, go back to Tag Manager, and I will paste it right in here. And we want to make sure that send a page view event when this configuration loads is checked. It will be by default, but you don't want to uncheck that one. So keep that one checked on. And then we're going to go to our triggering section down here, and we're going to click in the middle here, and we're going to click all pages. All right. Now, at the top right here, you'll see the save button. We want to click save. I'm not going to click it because I already have it installed on my site and I don't want to mess it up, but you will click save. Okay. From there, we are going to now go into Debug View. And so back in our G4 account, right, we have now put this in Tag Manager. We're ready to roll. I'm going to switch to my Tag Manager account so that I don't mess this up. All right, so this section is going to be really, really important for you to remember as we go through not only today, but forever, because the debug view is something new in analytics that allows us to see if what we're trying to accomplish actually works. So we're going to spend a lot of time in this section at AO when we're creating new events that we want to track and make sure that we set them up correctly. So this is definitely a section that you'll want to memorize as we go through. Keep these slides or the recording of this webinar handy, because this will be something you will use often. So for this section, to do the debug view, there's two steps. The first, we will need to be in both Google Tag Manager and our Google Analytics 4 accounts. So you'll have them both up. And I'm going to go back to the live view now so we can look at it live in my Tag Manager account. As I'm in my Tag Manager account here, what you'll see is your main screen. It'll show you if you have any workspace changes, all that jazz, but you're on the overview tab. In the upper right-hand corner, you see this preview button. And what you'll want to do is make sure that your Tag Manager, unlike mine, I have 7 billion tabs open, as you can see. I don't have Tag Manager open first. If you have Tag Manager after Analytics, this won't work. So you want your first tab to be Tag Manager and your second tab to be Analytics. Okay? So inside of your tag manager, we're going to click this preview button. And what it's going to do is pop open a new screen, and it's going to ask what website I want to connect this to. So I'm just going to type in my website. It's going to make me do HTTPS. And I'm going to click connect. It will open this screen, and then it will pop open my website in a new window. And you'll see at the top that in the URL is GTM debug, right? We talked about this being the debug view. So that's the first step in getting into debug mode. I'm going to get this one out of the way for now because I don't need to do anything with the website being up at this moment. What I want to do now is click continue. And now we are in official preview mode in Google Tag Manager. The next step that we do is you'll want to look for, if you've put the tag where we copy and pasted the G ID correctly, you should see right here in your preview the G4 tag. And you can see it's showing me in Tag Manager every single tag that is fired and not fired on my site. What you're looking for is this G4 tag has fired one time. That's what we're looking for. If you see that, we're good, and it has fired correctly, and we can go on to the next step. That next step is to go back to your Universal Analytics account, right? And right here on the right-hand or left-hand side in the menu, you're gonna, oh, there you are. We got a question.
We have a question, yes. So here's the question. We already had GA4 tagged in Tag Manager, but there are two accounts with the same domain. How do I know which account is using that GA4 stream?
Okay, so two accounts with the same name. Is this analytics accounts, or you have two separate G4 accounts?
Let's see, Danielle, I'm going to see if I can unmute you if you want to talk. She says two Tag Manager accounts.
Ah, two Tag Manager accounts. So that's where you would need Google Tag Assistant. And do you have access to both Tag Manager accounts?
Yes.
Okay, so the easiest way to do it is to look at the two numbers on your site. So let me open up a new window here so I can show you. Danielle, what is your website?
Wildlandtrekking.com.
Wildland what?
Wildlandtrekking, TREKKING.com.
All right, so up here is the Google Tag Assistant if you have installed this plugin. Quickly, for those of you who may not be familiar with that, I'll show you real quickly. Up here in the top right, you can see the three dots. You'd want to click on that, click on More Tools, and then click on Extensions. And if I click on that, I can do this, and I can do a search for Tag Assistant. It will come up like this. I can activate it and turn it on. When that happens, I will now go into it and enable it, refresh the website, and we've got a bunch going on here. So we have got global site tags, and it looks like, from what I can see, there's only one Tag Manager account on the website, Danielle. If there were multiple, it would show up in here like you see all of these. So we've got Google Ads conversion tracking twice, but it's the same account. So there's an error because one of them might be in Tag Manager, one of them might be hard-coded on the site, or there's two in Tag Manager. You don't need two because it's the same ID, so that's why you're getting the yellow error there. The remarketing tag looks like it's not firing correctly, and there's a call tracking that potentially is got some issues. but from what I can tell, this is the only tag manager account on the website, and that's the tag manager number. So 5RSS6V. That looks like that's the tag manager account. So if you have access to that one, that's the one where it looks like G4 is being deployed because it's the only one on the site.
Awesome. Thanks, Clint.
Cool. All right. So here we are back, and we are, so we've just done preview mode, right? We saw that the G4 tag fired. And now the next step, since we're still in preview mode, is to go into the debug view in G4. So on the left-hand side, if you scroll your mouse over, the menu will pop out. We're going to go to Configure and click Configure. And then we're going to click on Debug View. All right. So what we're seeing in Debug View, let me go back to my website.
Clint, can you really quick just show how we got there again?
Yep.
Debug View.
All right. So first thing we had to do was go in here into our tag manager account, click preview, put in our URL, and that brought me to this screen where we confirm that yes, in fact, the G4 tag did fire. After that, we're going into our G4 account. On the left-hand menu, down to Configure, click Configure, and then click Debug View. So
Cool,
it's
thanks.
important that I go back to my website, and I'm just going to click around what we do, click on something so that it registers me. And now I'm going to go back to the debug view, and you can see here's my device and here's my page view. So it's pretty cool in the debug view. This is showing me that we are seeing, so it just, you can see right away that there was a delay. When I just went and clicked on, let me double check, we are on my OTT advertising page. So in the debug view, if I click on any of these, it will bring me more information. So I can click on page view, and it has all these different things. I'm just curious to make sure, this is our verification that we have it set up and tracking correctly. I'm going to go down to page location and click page location. And it is going to show me the page that the user, which is me, is on. There it is, OTT and CTV advertising. So it in fact has me tracking on the website on the correct page in debug view. Now, as you saw, it took a few minutes for things to happen. This is not like super real time. So I'll show you again, go back to my website. Let's go to a different page. All right, we did some scrolling. And now let's go back to debug view. And you can see those haven't shown up yet. So they will here in a second. That's why it's not real time. You got to give this a minute. So boom, there's the user engagement. That's me switching the navigation. Then there's the page view. Let's double check and make sure I am on my family. Yep, Excite family. It's got me. So you can see that the delay is about 5 seconds or so in terms of what I'm doing on the site and when it shows up in here. But if we are seeing the data flowing, first confirmation was seeing the tag in Tag Manager, right? This thing right here, we saw that the tag was firing. Then we went into our analytics account, under configure, clicked on debug view. Because we're in preview mode, it knows that that device is me. That's why it's important that your tag manager window is before, the tab is before your analytics tab. And now it's showing my data and I can play around. I can see that it's tracking me correctly from the home page to the CTV page and to the Excite family page. So all the way back to my session start, when I was on the home page, there when I highlighted our debug view, you saw that in the URL, it grabbed that and knew. knew that we switched to the CTV page, and knew that we switched to the Excite family page. So by confirming both in Tag Manager and in the Debug View in G4, I now have confirmation that I have installed this G4 tag correctly into Tag Manager. And our setup is working. So when you start seeing the data, like you saw that I did, you can start clicking around the user. Any one of these is clickable, and it brings up different things, right? Page location, our session ID, our session number, all of those different things, and each of them are clickable to get more information, right? So this one, page location, was where we are, but the page refer, how did I get there? What was my step before that? Our CTV and OTT advertising page, right? And if I go to this page view and I look at the page location, this should be when we clicked on CTV, yep. And now what was the refer? Should be our home page with the debugger in there. And there you see that. So what's cool about the debug view inside of G4 that is something we have not had access to in the past is this data that you're seeing right here. May not all of you, many of you may not geek out about this like I do, but this is super helpful when it comes to what we're going to go through when we get to AO, when we're creating events, we're creating conversions. Did we set them up correctly? Are they tracking correctly? Because we'll be able to see source medium, all of that kind of stuff like in our session start, right? Our first page view, here's our session, here's our medium. How did we get there, right? Referral. Well, what was the page referral? Tag assistant. So if this was a Facebook campaign, right, we would see here potentially social, and then the page refer, we would see Facebook if I came in here. So there's lots of things that we can check in real time in the debug view to make sure that they're working. In Universal Analytics, we would create these goals and we could test them, but the data in Universal Analytics was delayed 24 hours. So I had set it up, I'd have to wait an entire 24 hours to go back in and see, did it track correctly, did it work correctly? Where with the new debug view in G4, I can get all of that information immediately, and it's right at my fingertips to know whether I did something correctly or incorrectly. I have noticed that there are some delays between the event actually happening and then what we saw in debug view. So sometimes I've had to wait for a minute, sometimes it's a few seconds. It's a bit unfortunate. Hopefully the team behind G4 will improve this in the future so it's more real time. I think it's probably likely that that will happen. This is just by nature of us, it being brand new and testing. All right, so before we do anything further, do we have any questions about what we've looked at so far? Clear as mud, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions coming in, but wondering if somebody's not seeing the activity that they would expect in the debug view, what might be the issue?
Couple of things. So the first thing is to go back and confirm in Tag Manager, right, that in fact we see the G4 tag under the tags fired, not under the tags not fired. If it's under the tags not fired, we did something wrong in Tag Manager. So that's the first step. If we're seeing it correctly here, but we're not seeing it in the debug view, the next step is to understand up here on the debug device, did it pick up my laptop? Sometimes you have to refresh that screen again, and if the debug device says 0, it's not recognizing you yet, so you may have to refresh this window for it to find your device that you're debugging on. So I'm refreshing to see, and you can see right here where it says debug device 0, and there's nothing in here. That's because it hasn't found, and now it's finding my Apple. So if it's fired, it's likely that it's not selected as the device in debug. If it's not showing under the tags fired in Tag Manager, we have to go back to our Tag Manager setup and figure out what we did wrong. And it's possible that we did something wrong in the triggering, right? When we created the new tag, there were 2 steps. First is the configuration, where we're going to click the G4 Analytics configuration. That's important. If you accidentally clicked Google Analytics G4 event, then that's not the right way. And so it could be firing, but it's not the configuration that we need for the setup. This is where we'll live when we start adding a bunch of stuff at AO. But for now, where we're just getting it on the site, we want to double check that it says G4 configuration is the tag that I've selected. And when we obviously double check the measurement ID and make sure something didn't happen with the copy and pasting of that, and then making sure that the triggering, when we hit all pages, it in fact shows here and we didn't accidentally hit this button and get rid of it.
Related to what you just said, I think someone has the question, we just have GA4 page view under tags fired. Is that the same? Or is that maybe the event instead of configuration?
That could be it. Yeah, so as you can see on mine, the G4 tag is whatever you call it. So when I'm in here, whatever you put up here is what it's going to call it there. So that's why it's important that you remember. But what you're looking for is the G4 configuration. So if you're seeing this say Google Analytics G4 event, we'll want to switch that out for G4 configuration, because as we start adding more events, we will confuse Google. The configuration is like loading the program the first time. The G4 event that we can grab in here, right? So if I edit this, G4 event, this is where we're going to do, so you can do this by setting it manually here. I would not do that. I would switch your configuration out. All you have to do is go into your Tag Manager account, click on this and switch it to G4 configuration instead of event. The reason that's important, it's not hurting your data right now, but as we get to AO and I'm going to create 1 million of these G4 events, we're going to start confusing G4. It has to know that the first one that it loads is the configuration, and then anything after that are events that I'm asking it to track. That makes sense?
Yeah, awesome. Let's see. I think we just had a new one come in. Oh, Scott's just saying this is a great session. Mind blowing.
Cool. All right, so to recap, we've created our property, right? I'm sorry, oh, no. Stay here for now. Just to recap where we've been, we created our property, we installed it in Tag Manager, we went to preview, we confirmed that the G tag was firing here, and then we went into Debug View and made sure that the data was rolling correctly inside of here. And as you can see, there's nothing that's happened for the last couple of minutes as I've been talking because I haven't done anything on the website. So I can click around the website again. And we can go back into Debug View. And it should start bringing in the latest activity. Boom. There's our user engagement and the page view. Let's just confirm it's correct. High fives. That's where I went. Excite high fives. So we're good. So that's where we're at now. What's the next step? Remember that in Tag Manager, all we did was publish. Now, or excuse me, all we did was go into preview mode. So we clicked, get out of this, sorry. We clicked preview to make sure that what we put in Tag Manager was working correctly. But we haven't actually published this live to the site for anyone but us in that debug view. That was just confirming our setup was correct. So we confirmed it was correct. Everything was good here. We go back to our Tag Manager account and we will click on this submit button right here. That's now going to push the change, the addition of the G4 tag that we added, that we have now confirmed is working correctly, and push it live so that now G4 is on our site for everyone. So after you click the submit button in the top right corner, and we've completed all the other steps, the user interface is going to ask you, like, do you want to name this version, whatever. I never name them because I can go back and look at all the versions, but you can put a name. So when you click submit, it's going to say, oh, I don't think it'll work for me now because I haven't done anything. Yeah, it will. So it'll bring up submit changes. You can choose to name this. I don't. If you wanted to, on the version name, you could say added G4, and then you click publish. Okay, does that make sense? We are now live with our G4 on the site for all users, and now we can start seeing, all right, now outside of debug mode, we saw that it found me, but now we've published it live to the world. So now let's go see what we can see inside of G4 under the real-time reports. So that is the 5th section of our webinar today, real-time reports in Google Analytics. So we'll go back to our G4 account. We are going to go to reports on the left-hand side. Come on. And right here at the top, you'll see real time. So we're going to click on real time, and boom. Now you're seeing everyone on my website in real time with a map all over the country. Colorado Springs, Salida, Denver, Sedalia, someone in New York, and someone in Jacksonville. So this is a real time of what's happening on my site. You'll see a series of cards here, right? So after you click reports, again, we got here by clicking reports on the left-hand side, which is the second one down, and it'll bring up this screen. Then we clicked on real time, and now we're seeing it here in real time. So first you'll see a map and a bunch of what I'll call cards that show different traffic sources, our audience, all of those things. So first, user source. How did they come to the website? How many users total are on the website? What page are all these guys on? What are the views of those pages? All of this you can sort of see in real time what's happening on the website. So depending on your website and your seasonality and traffic, you may not see a bunch of people on your site. I only have 5 right now, including myself. So this just confirms, you may have to check this a couple times if no one happens to be on your site right now. We already checked that it fired in Tag Manager. We already checked that it found us in Debug View. So just means in real time, perhaps maybe no one's on your website. You could test it yourself by now opening up your phone, going to your website on your phone and seeing it pop up here, if there's no one on your site to confirm this. But now this is the final step to say, boom, we've got everything correct. I debugged it. I saw it was firing in Tag Manager. It found me. I tracked that I was on the right pages as I tested in the Debug View. Now I've published my changes in Tag Manager. And so now I can see in real time what's happening on my website. Another cool thing about the real-time reports that we have never seen before is a user snapshot. In the top right corner of this real-time report, you'll see up here above the map, view user snapshot. So if you click on this, it's going to look a lot like the debug view that we were just in. I may or may not have any, so we'll see. Okay, so whoever was in Jacksonville, Florida on my website, this is the snapshot. Now, I can't pick this. This isn't something we can delve into in real time and actually grab somebody. This is random. So for you, it may not be there. Depending on your site traffic, there may not be any data because it literally, just because there are people on your site doesn't mean that the user snapshot was captured for that person. So you'll have to check this a few different times. But it is interesting to look through and see, this is the actual user. They're in Jacksonville, Florida, right? And what have they done? I can click through and see they landed on my homepage, and since then, they haven't done anything else. But this is looking at a user in real time right now on the website, and it was the one in Jacksonville, Florida. So when you want to get out of this, at the top right again is exit snapshot, and it'll take us back to our real-time report. And there's that person in Jacksonville that was the person that we saw in our user snapshot. See if it picks it up again. Yeah. So this is the timeline of that user, and if they did anything more on the site, you would see different things in here. So that's a cool thing that we've never had in analytics before. Just another way that you can sort of, I use this often to check when I've added new things on my website or I've changed navigation. I go in here and go, all right, let's see if people are doing what I want them to do. Are they getting lost? Are they not going anywhere? I'm not sure who this particular user is, but it would be alarming to me if I saw this often, that somebody landed on my site at 12:48 and in almost 10 minutes haven't done anything. Maybe, maybe not. My homepage's got a lot on it. Maybe it takes more than a minute to go through it if you're actually taking the time to look at it and go through it. You don't know. But it's cool to be able to see, all right, our thing is behavior on my site the expected way I want to see it. So a few times a month, I'll go in here and look at a user snapshot just to see what their journey is through the website. It, like I said, because it's randomized, it's not going to be every user to your site. So it seems like this report, while it's new and cool to play around with, this one has been the one that has changed most often inside the new system. It looks different almost every time I go in. The cards here as it loads are different. What happens in the middle versus the left-hand side is different. All of these different cards that show up have been different a lot. So just know that as you're playing around with it, it is a cool new feature, but is not fully baked, and it seems to be the one that is changing a lot. All right, so the last section is the most important, and that's importing our existing goals. Should be pretty quick and easy. Now, back in our Universal Analytics account. So here we are in our G4 account, right? What we want to do to import any goals that we had already previously set up inside of Universal Analytics. And again, these are goals, not e-commerce transactions. That's not something we can easily do. That's a much longer thing we'll discuss at AO. But how to import contact forms, downloads, anything that you've already created as a goal. The difference between Universal Analytics and G4, Universal Analytics called them goals. G4 has finally got on the verbiage that everyone else on the planet uses and called them conversions. So how do we turn a Universal Analytics goal into a G4 conversion on our site? This will only work if you've created them already inside your existing analytics account. On the left-hand side, you've got all these things happening, right? Reports, explore, and then at the bottom is the wheel, admin. So we're going to click on admin. Okay. Finish loading here. And now in the middle, you'll see that unlike our universal that had views, we're in G4, it only has account and property. What we're going to do now is click on Setup Assistant. And set up conversions. So again, one more time, I'll back up. We clicked on the admin wheel. We click on Setup Assistant. And then set up conversions. Mine are already set up, so it's not going to look this way. Yours aren't. So it will say probably get started here, something like that. And if you click this button, I'm going to go back to my slideshow now where I've got it before I set them up, a screenshot so you can actually see what the screens will look like as we go through. All right, slideshow mode, so this is bigger. Already talked about that. We're clicking Setup Assistant. And now, like you saw on my screen, we're going to go down under the property settings right here to set up conversions. And what you will see, import from Universal Analytics will be the first thing, and you'll want to click that. Once you click that, you're going to be given a screen that shows you every goal you've created. Special note. Remember Universal Analytics, you could have multiple views. In the old days, the way to do that is we always at a minimum set up 3, a customized view, an unfiltered view, and a test view, right? If you have more than that, or you have multiple different views over the years, different marketing companies use them for different things, you use them for different things, this import goals will bring in every single goal that was created in any view. So what you'll want to do is make sure you verify which ones you actually want to bring into G4. For example, on my site, I had a bunch of goals that were set up a long time ago that I don't use anymore. This was a screenshot of mine. One was a phone call tracking thing I was playing around with from Google My Business. I no longer use that. So I would uncheck the phone calls. I would uncheck the phone calls box here, and I would only verify that the goals that are here that I want to bring over are truly the ones that I want to bring over. For me, it's pretty easy. The TXG customization view is what mine is called under the view. So I'm only importing the goals from that. I'm not going to import goals from other views that I don't use anymore. So once I've gone through, verified which ones I want to bring over, I select them by the checkbox, and at the top right, I will click Import Selected Conversions. So again, just make sure that you're confirming which ones you want to keep and which ones you do not. All right, so you are now ready to collect data in G4. We've installed it on our site. The next step is to implement more tracking. If you have goals, we've brought those into G4 with the import using conversions, so those will start recording now. And the event tracking that we talk about next is the backbone of your G4 setup. And that's because G4 is event-based. So every interaction that you want to measure across this G4 account is now an event. So as we move towards conversion tracking and event tracking, we're going to learn a lot about that at AO. But you'll have about 2 months of data to work with before our next step at AO if you do this sooner than later. And that will be really helpful as you get used to looking at this. Again, going back to where I started with the discrepancies between my Universal Analytics account and my G4 account, the discrepancy, it looks like way less users, way less engagement. Is that the baseline? What do we need to learn from that moving forward is really, really important. So the sooner you do this, the better off you'll be, and we will be able to tackle this at AO in more depth. I'll leave my contact info on the screen, our website, my email, and our phone number. If you need help with any of this, you don't have a developer, everything I said today was a foreign language and you're confused, feel free to reach out and we can try to help you.
Awesome, Clint. That was seriously great. I think everybody on this call may be wanting to go back and pause Clint at certain times so that they can catch up. So I just want to let you know that this will automatically be emailed to you, this recording, and that should get to you by tomorrow. I'm going to try to get it out sooner. It's going to come from GoToWebinar, so it just depends once it gets the video uploaded. And Clint, I wanted to ask, the session at AO, is that a bring your computer, have it out and ready type of workshop?
Yes, 100%. That's why we wanted to do this beforehand so that you're starting to collect some data. We're going to tackle a couple things at that workshop. The first will be configuring more events and more conversions. So if you didn't set anything up in Universal Analytics, the way that you do that now in G4 is very different. So we're going to tackle how to set up new conversions at AO. And then more importantly, we're going to walk through all the different reports, which are very, very different than what we're used to looking at in Universal Analytics. They're not called the same. They don't look the same. So I'm going to attempt to bridge the gap between what you're used to looking at and where to find that in G4. And so the more data you have, the more that will be helpful for us to walk around the room and set it up together and understand the reporting in a better way together, so that when this hits us July of next year, we're not freaking out and we already understand, yes, I have seen the differences in the traffic. It's not like, oh, it dropped off overnight. No, I've seen consistently since October. This is what Universal says. This is what GA4 says. And the reason they're different is fundamentally their technology is different. Cookies are very different than events. There's a lot of machine learning and AI that is happening in G4. So for example, part of the reason that I have higher sessions in Universal Analytics compared to my G4 knows how to unify and deduplicate data because it understands. So because it's session-based in Universal Analytics, I'll give you an example. I could go to my website right now on my computer. Then I could go to my website right now on my phone. In Universal Analytics, that is 2 sessions and 2 completely different people. In G4, it's 1. So automatically we're going to see less traffic, right? So if we get that now, we're not freaking out in the middle of next season going, what the hell happened to my marketing? You know, it's not really that it's gone away. It's just they're recorded and collected very, very differently. So the sooner we can play around and look between both, the better off we'll be.
Awesome. Danielle noticed that the Excite group down there.com is just with 1 O. So if you want to go to that website, it's GROUP.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at my.
Yes, so fun little Danielle, if you're looking for a marketing communications editing job,
Right?
Sure, some people would love to hire you.
Delete the recording. It was never that way. You can see it correct now.
Yeah, I'll edit this. All right, cool. That is her job. Danielle's the bomb. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We didn't lose a single person throughout this, which is not surprising because that was great. I will see you all at America Outdoors. That link is still in the chat. If anyone has questions, when you get that automatic recording email, I'm also going to put Clint's email in there because he is the guy to answer your questions, or I'm also happy to help. Everyone have a great afternoon, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. We'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah.